So oftentimes when I try to talk to new players about playing Dead Cells, one of the things I tell them is to run a double shield build on like 0 BC or 1 BC. And the reason I say that is because it helps you learn enemy attack patterns and also teaches you different things like such as how to dodge, when to parry. So there's a lot of good that can come out of running a double shield build. Um, it's not the most viable thing in the world, but I personally do advocate for it. So, what I wanted to achieve with this run was essentially do that very thing. So, I wanted double shield, and so with double shield, you kind of have to go more on the offensive, or at least have one offensive shield. But I decided to go full offensive on this one. So, the shields I have unlocked here are going to be Spike Shield, Punishment, or yeah, Punishment, Spike Shield, Bloodthirsty, and Thunder Shield. And Thunder Shield can be found on 5 BC. I haven't done a run with it yet, but um, it's very good, and I can explain what each of these shields does as soon as this elite dies. No, sooner than expected. So, Spike Shield is the definition of an offensive shield. So, essentially, what you're working with is um, a shield that does really a lot of damage on the parry, or even on a regular. It'll knock out nearly every enemy on a parry. Bloodthirsty Shield will create an area of effect, and all enemies that fall into that area of effect are inflicted with blood. That also works really well. It's great on many different type of builds, and one of the builds I've been wanting to run for a while has been Bloodthirsty Shield with something like a Sadist Stiletto. So Punishment, it's a little harder to explain, but essentially, Punishment Shield, what that does is gives you, it's also an area and effect type of shield, but all nearby enemies get inflicted with the amount that you parry back. So, say for example, I do 20 damage on the parry. The enemies that fall within that area of effect will also be hit with 20 damage. I believe so. But it does a really good job in crowd control and just giving yourself a little bit of space. And I also have 2 Giant Whistles unlocked because I wanted to do a Giant Whistle run as well. With this run, it's way better to have maybe a Giant Whistle's fine, but also something like maybe a Powerful Grenade or a Wolf. No, not a Wolf Trap, but or like a Death Orb or something like that. 2 Giant Whistles. I just like the. I think the word is symmetry. I just like the symmetry of that. And plus, Giant Whistles gets me out of situations like what you just saw. And a couple things to note about this Thunder Shield. So, Thunder Shield has 2 other components to it. So, when you parry, and I think also when you have a regular shield, so if you don't parry but you still get the blocker up, um, it'll create that little kind of lightning effect around you. So 2 things can happen with it. The first is that you can do damage to enemies that are close by. And the second is that you will be able to, what is it? Hold if you tap the button that the shield is on, then you'll be able to create a big stun effect. So it stuns all enemies, and it does a significant amount of damage as well. It's not going to necessarily knock it out, but it does create a good damage for it creates like a good damage buffer for enemies. So if you're in a tight position, you stun all the enemies, then you're good to go. And even you can see right here, like I'm kind of just stopped and just letting the enemies die. And also, if you hold the button down, you can do a little bit of a small kind of lightning bolt. It's essentially the same as lightning bolt, so it does crits and stuns in water, but it's just not as powerful. So it works as both an offensive and a defensive shield. So we kind of get through prisoner quarters pretty much okay. I just needed to take the time to introduce the concept of this run. So there's going to be a lot of pairing. There's going to be a lot of kind of running away. So this is a little bit of a slower build. I can't exactly like rush deep into mobs. And one of the reasons is I don't have powerful grenades, so I'm using 2 giant whistles. So with the giant whistles, what the idea is I can hit elites pretty quickly, and usually by the end of the game I should be able to knock them out, because giant whistle is extremely powerful and exceeds the damage cap, which I think in this game is 99,999. So giant whistle does exceed it. And damage over time, I think, also exceeds it. So I have a little bit, I'm aiming for a little damage over time. So that can come in the form of pairing. So different shields have different parry affixes. So some it'll be for shield, some it'll be poison, some it'll be freezing. Freezing I'm trying to avoid because it slows enemies down. So since I'm running double shields, I need to parry, and slowing it down is going to kind of mess with my timing a little bit. So there, you can burn enemies, you can poison enemies, you can bleed enemies, and I think those are the 4. There's also different affixes on shields, so there's attacking after parry does, what was it, 300% bonus damage on your next attack. So say, for example, you are able to parry with something. So if I activate the Giant's Whistle, then I should be able to do some significant amount of damage on the Giant Whistle once I am able to do a little bit of more damage. Or, I'm sorry, I kind of worded that wrong. Essentially what I'm trying to say is you parry an attack, and your next attack will do 300. So in this case, it would be the Giant Whistle. I'm not sure if this also works with parries on shields. I didn't really get a chance to try that out much in this run. What else? Anything else to note? Probably not in terms of this run, but you can see right away the Giant Whistle, I just hit it twice, and Elite goes down, so that's going to be a lot of help. Typically, the 300% bonus affix is used when you actually have a weapon with you. So the idea is you parry and then you hit right away. And that works with things like broadsword, just slow, bulky weapons. So I'm a proponent of it, I would say. And I'll be using the Giant Whistle for a few purposes. One of them is to get out of precarious situations with enemies and mobs, just to lessen the mob effect. The other way I'm going to be doing it is to knock out elites, kind of handle myself against bosses, just things like that. So getting 60 kills in this kind of run is going to be difficult. Simply just because sooner or later I'm going to mistime my parry and I'm going to get hit. I'm going to try as hard as I can to get the 60 because I can get some really good weapons. I do want to go for Giant at some point in this run, just to test out Giant Whistle against Giant. Kind of have to, right? And plus, the Giant is very parryable. So these bats can be killed multiple ways. One is if I can just straight up just parry an attack. And another way is I can actually, I can down smash. I can. There's various things that I can do. in order to parry, in order to deal with bats. Also, the Thunder Shield will do a fair amount of damage punishment, and Blood Thirsty Shield will also help me out with that. So one thing to note is that the parrying for Thunder Shield and the subsequent affect of the lightning bolt kind of surrounding you is going to trigger enemies, so they will be aggroing you. And I have a feeling that the giant whistle slowdowns are going to be a bit of a pain for me in the majority of this run. So this is kind of not a fun position to be in. Giant Whistle definitely helped out with that, though. And another thing is I'm just going to have to be good about dodging. So Spike Shield is probably the best type of weapon for this sort of build, and I will be picking one up later, but right now Bloodthirsty Shield is giving me what I need, along with the Thunder Shield, so I don't really need to worry about anything. And the other thing I also have unlocked is Tonic, just for the health regeneration and damage, the damage reduction. But I won't be using it that much, only in positions where I get hit a lot. So with failed experiments, they have that really annoying dodge attack. So one thing you want to make sure is that if you're dealing with them, try to be posted up against the wall. Because that dodge effect is pretty annoying. And this is not the funnest position to be in. So luckily those bats go down quickly to my Thunder Shield, and I'm able to get out of that position without taking any damage whatsoever. So I was very surprised. Somehow I account for that anytime I pick up a curse chest, but this particular instance I didn't, and I'm not sure why. So kamikazing bats is not an exact science. Sometimes you just mess up, and you have to kind of deal with that. Now, they do a lot of damage, especially once you get to a Sepulcher. So, getting something like Necromancy is going to be really vital for this build. And also, I'll be taking hits against bosses. It's not... The no-hits are just not going to happen for me. It's too long of a boss fight. Especially if I decide to do something like Giant. But you can see right away, Spike Shield just does... It just wrecks enemies. So the Giant Whistle goes after what it deems to be the strongest enemy on the screen. So it's whatever the Giant says is the strongest enemy. And that can just depend. But it'll always go after elites. And it almost always goes after defenders, protectors, masks, things like that. So it's a really good way to clear out those type of areas. I'm actually kind of surprised I actually got the parry there. So it's nice, because I can just kind of just stand there and then defeat enemies like that. Kind of exactly like that. Just roll around, let the damage do its thing. So one thing to note is Thunder Shield, because it's an offensive shield, it kind of works as a weapon. It also has a victims emit toxic cloud, which is pretty cool. I like that a lot. Now, one thing I wonder, and I'm going to try this at some point, is whether or not the Thunder Shield, if you have two of them, so if you run a double shield build with two Thunder Shields, what happens to the kind of like static lightning bolt thing that you get from one parry? Is it double? Is it all the same? So that's something I kind of want to figure out. But I don't do it in this run. But I will be doing it in subsequent runs. I really want to try a double Thunder Shield. Not with two Giant Whistles though. I'm not doing that ever again. Maybe one Giant Whistle and one other weapon, or one other skill, like something like a Powerful Grenade or Death Orb, or even like not a Stun Grenade. I don't know, just something that can give me some good damage. More consistent damage, and not like a really, really long cooldown. So one thing to note is that Giant Whistles are extremely expensive, so I'm going to try to avoid buying them as much as possible. Shields are not very expensive, but Giant Whistles definitely, I would say, are. And I almost took that Bloodthirsty Shield because Bleed Propagation seemed like a good idea, but I saw the freeze and I decided not to go through with it. But that Giant Whistle on the side is looking mighty good right now, especially the Poison Affix, because then I can reroll and grab something that has 100% to poison. Of course, the one I have right now does, but I'm thinking about later on because I don't want to be stuck with the level 4 Giant Whistle forever. So punishment is going to give me the ability to deal with bats and knife throwers. That was pretty much the sole reason why I took it. Plus, I don't have to deal with the aggro that Thunder Shield would cause. And so we are going to go for the Cursed Chest. It is 10 enemies. Successfully pairing 10 enemies can be done in theory, but things can go wrong sometimes. And that's one of the reasons why I took the punishment. Because it knocks out knife throwers very, very quickly, and it does damage to nearby enemies as well. And so the Blind Faith mutation is working wonders for me right now. So I only have 2 enemies left on the screen, so I can either wait, which I don't feel like doing, or I can aggro that knife thrower, because that's looking fun. And I can just use the giant whistle on the next enemy I see. So with the hammers, just use the giant whistle on them. There's no reason to not. So right there you can see the power of punishment. That elite goes down in mere seconds because of how good it is against knife throwers. So I want to be careful with those slashers because they'll continue their attack, but the timing is a little bit off. So now I have to deal with one of these challenge rooms. I am not good at these. I'm definitely going to get hit a few times. And you can parry the little ninja star thing that comes out at you. I just don't know about the little mace thingy, the spike ball. It looks like you can, because I thought my timing was fine on that. And I tried to dunk under that, and that didn't work either, so I'm at pretty low health. But we're at the end, so... And there was that tonic up above, and that's where tonic is incredibly valuable. Gets me back up to over 50% health, and I should be good from here on out. And at some point I'll end up taking medicine. And necromancy should be able to get me to full health as well. The only thing I really have to worry about is melee stack. So I kind of have to sit there kind of awkwardly while this massacre goes away, so I just decide to ground pound on it. But Prison Depth is going well, outside of the challenge rift that almost killed me. It's been going well. I don't like the placement of those spikes. It can be very much a pain in the ass. And so getting that poison affix on the giant whistle is saving my butt against these elites, especially that 100% to poison on the other giant whistle. So that is the end of the level, but I forgot to, I didn't find my, whatchamacallit, the golden key yet. So I don't know how that hammer aggroed me, because I was never within the line of sight, but hammers have extremely odd aggro properties. Like, you can be like 3, 4 screens away and you'll still aggro it for some reason, especially elites. I accidentally aggro 6 bats, so we're using the giant whistle on bats. But we just run and use the head for the remainder, and do a weird little down stomp. So I do get a better punishment shield, and that's gonna do pretty much wonders for me in this run. Now I have the gold key, I can finish up Prison Depths. I'm at full health, only 1 melee stack, so we're sitting okay right now. And we actually end up with 17 survival, which is pretty amazing. Alright, so we're heading to the ossuary, and it's going to be a little tricky because you can't parry shockers, and for the corpse grinder is the one that shoots out the little worms. I'm going to have to use the giant whistle on it. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. And we do take Spite here just because I want to do more damage with my shields. Also, parrying the worms is kind of fairly useless, just because there just isn't a point to parrying the worms. Like, you might as well just use your head on them, or something like that. So right there, just use the giant whistle, or I can even use my head on those. So it doesn't really matter which shield I use. It's gonna kill these enemies no matter what. So I am going to leave those enemies on the map because I'm not carrying acceptance with me for this run, so I'm going to have to kill 10 enemies, and that's a minimum of 20 enemies I'm going to have to have on the map for the curse, and hopefully no elites. And with the failed experiments, I try to stay a little bit away so he can what is it? He can jump into me, and that's a lot easier to parry than his strikes, because with the strikes, sometimes he'll do the dodge move, and it feels kind of random sometimes on when he does it. It's almost looking like a tactics run, kind of glass cannony at the moment. Because I'm only sitting at 319 and 1. Or, sorry, yeah, 3 1 and 19, excuse me. So, one hit is going to be doing a good amount of damage to me. I would have taken that if this were the run, but this is a double shield run. But I do want to try out Vorpan. I have a win with it. I just haven't really gone out of my way to use it. So we'll try one of these days. I do like him. Maybe I can use it with like open wounds or something like that. Open wounds, melee, something else maybe. That's our first curse chest. So 10 enemies are going to be on the map. And since I'm getting this curse fairly early, I can actually go ahead and knock out, I think it's about 5 enemies or so. And then I can knock out the rest of them. And hopefully, again, no elites. The slowdown on the screen is real for those. That can be a little annoying at times. Got the double parry right there. Looking good so far. But of course, you know, at some point I'm bound to get hit. I'm sitting at 45 right now. It'll probably take a couple mistakes for me to, you know, not get out of here in pretty good shape. I would have definitely taken the Bleeding Causes Poison Bloodthirsty Shield if I had that money. But I believe I used it on something. Can't remember at the moment. Very lucky I didn't get hit there. So here's something weird happens. I thought I parried, but I guess I didn't. So I was pretty upset that I lost my 60 right there. I almost for a split second wanted to take it, because Pyrotechnics is awesome. And it's been a long time since I've used it. And again, I just really want to leave enemies on the map. So I'm actually going to leave this area. And again, anytime you can leave enemies on the map, do it. Unless like you need health and you have necromancy, like saving enemies for a curse chest is always good because you don't want to take it into a boss or even the next biome. So I'm gonna wait for these corpse juice worms to die from the poison. We're gonna go ahead and parry this lacerator, and luckily for me that shocker didn't aggro, but it's not gonna aggro if it's from below and it's a closed space. That happens with the head sometimes, and I don't really know why that happens. I just know that it does. And that's going to be our second curse chest for this level. So there's no way for me to kill this shocker, so I'm going to have to use the whistle on it. Because I can't use my head either. So we're done with curses for this level. There's always a chance you can get that open curse chest, but that's not going to be there for this one. I almost took it because of the 15%, but then I realized I wanted the poison affix even more. So, and if I re-roll that, I'm likely losing the 15%. So there was just no point for me. So the only reason I took that, I don't typically take invisibility, but it did give me an extra stat, and I really wanted that extra stat. So, um, good idea for me to take it in general. Invisibility helps, and we're gonna see my second mistake here, because the Thorny typically doesn't roll into you if you have the head on it. It'll like kind of like hide, and it'll like cower and stuff like that. So I'm not gonna be too hard on myself for that one, but it was kind of irritating if that happened. But I was at 47 kills or something, and unfortunately that lost me my 60. So we kind of have to go into Black Bridge without really getting any level 9 weapons. We do have the giant whistle, of course. But that can be the problem with getting with the 60 kill requirement, because sometimes um, sometimes you'll get hit once, but it'll be in the middle of the level, and then you can't get 60 because of it. And then other times it'll be you get hit at the very beginning of the level, and then you kill every single enemy from there, so then you get 60. But in my case, I only got hit twice, but they were at different points in the level where I was getting close to 60, so there's no shot at me getting it, which is unfortunate. But I'm going to finish off this last area just to get some cash. I love the noises that they make. It's so satisfying. It's like a nice little crunch. So there's a little bit of an exploit here, and if you kind of keep Concierge against the wall, then you'll be able to keep shielding him. And with a double shield build, that's pretty much all I can do in this situation. So unfortunately, I lose my perfect fight right there because when he went for the shot, it was right as he I parried him when because he took the shot in the shield form, and the RL came right after. So unfortunately, I lost my perfect fight right there. Oh, and it would have been really nice to get a legendary item. Like a legendary shield would have been fantastic to have. We're starting off right away with the cursed chest. And again, 10 enemies because I'm not taking acceptance for this run. But it is doable. The only problem is going to be the bombers. And actually, it's funny because this is the run that I learned how to parry the bombers swipe attack. Because I never had done it before. Because I always had a weapon with me, so there was never a need to have to parry bombers. And so that's the problem with invisibility, is it's going to be kind of tough to handle bombers and just enemies in general. There are good and bad parts to invisibility. I wish I didn't have invisibility on this run. And that could have been run right there from the bomber, or from the kamikaze bats. Unfortunately, because what happened basically was that one of them died due to the toxic cloud, and I was getting ready to double parry the other one, but my parry had already died by that point. So that was a little difficult, but I was able to roll away just in time and not lose the run as a result. If you're reflecting shots, use the punishment shield instead. Because then you can do more damage. It's like what I did with the knife throwers. So there's definitely a bit of a slowdown to the playback video when with the giant whistle. So it's a bit annoying, but that's just the way it is sometimes. Like Caverns, I don't know how many of you saw my Caverns video, but that had a lot of delay on it. So now we're gonna go for the second curse chest. And it was at that moment that I had actually figured out how to parry the bomber's swipe. So you're gonna be seeing me do that a lot more from here on in. So I'm a little confused into what I should actually be doing here. But I get rid of that bomber, and I think that was probably the more important kill. So now my next task is going to be to aggro that elite bomber before I take my final curse chest. So I do get my 60 right there, and I believe... Is that my first 60? No, it was my second one. Now we do have the final curse chest, so now we gotta go and do that. I probably could have taken advantage of my invisibility, but I just never did that. Got fairly lucky there. That almost ended up being pretty bad luck. Clear out the curses, and we got 60 kills, and we're sitting good right now. We're sitting very good. And so I know there's a couple more scrolls left in this level, so I want to keep going until I find all the scrolls. So we end up in a bit of a precarious position. We don't take too much damage from it because I'm able to parry everything, but it was still kind of tricky. But at the end of the day, we still are able to, get out of there without much health being taken off, and plus we had that the turkey breast, so we still have 50% heal. So I'm gonna start acting a little bit weird here, and I just really want to see what the curse chest is gonna be. And I know that I can't deal with these worms, otherwise I'll be here forever. So I'm gonna kind of let everyone run towards me, find out what's there, and just get out of there. Although I could have taken advantage of my invisibility and done this, but I wasn't really thinking straight at the time, unfortunately. I was kind of in full-on panic mode right there. So finally get a significant upgrade for my giant whistle. So now I have a giant whistle that does poison and another giant whistle that has 100% to poison. And this is going to be extremely helpful for me just going forward with any type of elite. So right off the bat, we're starting off with 2 spiked areas. And the other enemy that I kind of learned how to parry in this run were the Dark Tractor, because they're usually so frail I can knock them out with pretty much anything. So I do leave those 4 enemies on the map just so I can come back to them later when I'm cursed. So I don't have to take my curse into either Timekeeper or Giant. So unfortunately for me, the shield bearer was moving a little too slow. So I couldn't I couldn't knock it out when I really wanted to. So I couldn't do a double parry. So those enemies just got shredded right there from the blood shield. So that's always nice to have. Now we got the double parry. So we're sitting good right now. But I do need to run towards the next teleporter so I don't get the darkness damage. So we do take significant damage here from the kamikazes, and it's just a matter of I need to be in rhythm sometimes, and stuff like this kind of puts me out of rhythm. But I still have necromancy, so it's not the worst thing in the world. The dodge from the failed experiment can get extremely annoying. Like, I won't even lie. So that's just melting enemies away. So I'm getting kind of screwed over by the timing a little bit, especially that failed experiment dodging, and then I'm definitely like not having a great time in Sepulchre at the moment. Clock Tower might have been a better option for me, but I did want the option of fighting Giant, and I'm not too used to the automatas yet. So I realized that I was invisible here, so I could take advantage of that and then just down smash on the kamikazes. And there's the 2 kamikazes that I didn't kill earlier, so I can go ahead and knock those out. And that's one of my curses gone. And luckily for me, like when I'm getting hit, I'm getting hit in non-curse situations, and those are always fixable. It's going to be our last curse chest of the game. And we have plenty of enemies on screen to kill. So now I just kind of realized that I should probably just let all these guys explode and just run away. And so that actually, I should have used that strategy this entire time instead of trying to parry them, but you know, mistakes were made in this run. Lots and lots and lots of mistakes were made in this run. But we're done with Curse Chest for this run, thankfully. So punishment sounds really good because no matter who I face, Giant or Timekeeper, they have lasers and turret-like attacks. So I can use the punishment shield on those to inflict a ton of damage on them. So I only have 2 more until I get to 60, and then I can enjoy myself a nice weapon. And that's the 60. So despite all the trouble that I went through in this level, we end up getting 60, so that looks really good for the upcoming fight. But of course I have to actually beat this level first. And here's when we ran into a lot of trouble because I forgot to parry, and then I was stuck at 1 HP. And if I didn't parry that right there, that's probably run over. And I just for good measure, I get hit by the knife throw, but I'm able to do some parrying just in time, so I was okay on that. So now I'm forced to have to parry these kamikaze bats because I need some help from necromancy, and I'm looking for that final scroll, and I'm not able to find it anywhere, and I'm not sure why. So it's not in there either, so I guess I must have gotten all the scrolls. And I only noticed this on the playback, but apparently there was no there was a tonic inside one of the curse chest doors. I should have just gone there and taken that, but that's okay. Like, we take this one, we get through all the spikes, so we're okay. I do want to be at full health, and again, I had forgotten about that tonic in the cursed chest store. So I go buy one, heal up, and we're at 100%. We have 3 stacks of Malays for Giant, so can't really take a lot of hits. And if I do, I need to find a space to heal up. So there was a bit of an issue with the recording, so I just kind of skip ahead to the giant fight. Nothing really changed here. I just got an upgraded spike shield, so that's going to be nice. And so for this fight, punishment's going to be a great benefit for me to have. And I have the 2 giant whistles, which I plan on using for the eyeball. And that does a good 25% for me. I just have to focus on parrying, but it's going to be tough once he does the double smash and the little crystals start coming. So I can stay in the corner there and not get hit by the crystals, but they come down for a long time. And unfortunately, the giant whistle knocks me into the crystal. So that was extremely unfortunate for me. So now I had to use a health potion, but fortunately for me, now we're on full health. And so we're almost done with this fight. Got some clutch rolling right there, and we're almost done. And there we go, that's the giant fight. Great stuff. You know, I really wanted that no-hit, but with the crystals falling down and me kind of getting a little bit of bad luck right there, unfortunately it didn't happen. But what matters is that we got the W. Seriously, that's all that matters sometimes. So High Peak Castle is going to be a little difficult, mostly because um, of the demons and then the bombers. So I just have to be really careful when I'm in this area. I also learned how to parry the catcher's kick as well. I hadn't really ever done that before. And same with the spin from the Guardian. But I already kind of knew how to do that. I'm gonna leave that tonic on the ground because I'm definitely getting hit while I'm at High Peak Castle. It's an inevitability. And I only took that over the punishment because bleeding causes poisoning is fantastic, so I really wanted that. Completely whiff on the parry for the bomb. So that was also a bit unlucky. The head went straight over, so I'm not sure how that happened, but unfortunately I ended up taking a hit because of that. And apologies for my phone going off right there. I gotta keep that back on silent. I ordered some food, so I had to put my phone on, take it off silent, but it's almost always on silent, actually. And for the first time ever, I get hit by the Royal Guard. Very, very bad form on my part. I thought he was going to try to run into me at first, because he always almost does that first, at least in my experience. So I'm getting pretty unlucky with the amulets. I only ever had 2 amulets, or 2 or 3 amulets the entire run that had 2 green in it. The rest were all just kind of like lackluster in terms of what I wanted. That was a complete mess right there. And having a powerful grenade or something like that would have really, really helped me out. And so another bit of bad luck right here. I almost die again here, but luckily we are good to go. So double shields is kind of a sloppy concept sometimes. Just because, you really have to try to not get hit, and that's easier said than done. Especially when you don't have a weapon to kind of help you out. So it can be tricky with those demons. Because you kind of have to run away and then try to not get hit, and then it's just this whole kind of cat and mouse game. So even though the enemy is all the way up there, if you press the trigger button at the right time, then you should be able to um, get the giant whistle to kill enemies, even if they're kind of off screen. So I'm waiting for both my giant whistles to pop back up, just because I don't want to have to deal with these demons. And actually, I'm very fortunate that I've seen so little of them right now. And parrying that little spin attack by the Guardian is a little tricky, but what you have to do is, as soon as he starts, that's when you press the button. So think of that sword, and it's coming around right to you, and then that's when you press the button. And luckily, no enemies to fight. I can just go ahead and kill this Thorny. And I've realized that I'm not going to go for the 60. There's 0 point in doing that, because I'm probably not going to get it. And two, I only have so much health from Necromancy. So I just need to finish this up and then get out. And that's the problem with the invisibility. It's that essentially I have to, stop the invisibility, and then just to make sure that the bomber attacks me, and then after that I have to um, parry again, and that's really difficult to do. So I almost took that, but I did want the extra jump for Hand of the King, so I decided just to leave that there in case I wanted to grab it later. And I get lucky again in not having to face any enemies before this. And I realized as I was in there that I had forgotten to utilize the cooldown on my giant whistle, because I just used it on the bomber elite. I was desperately trying to find like a tonic, which I actually get here, luckily enough. But I was desperately trying to find a tonic or some food to reduce my malaise. Because I really did not want to have to use another health potion, because I only have, what is it? How many do I have left? 3. And I was also looking for that last scroll, the colorless scroll, and I realized that it looks like I had taken it already, but sometimes you just lose track of how many scrolls you collect, and just smaller things like that. And I figured I might as well just go for some cash. And it ended up being the right move in the long run, going for some extra cash. And there's our kebab. So, good thing that I actually went through there. And looks like there's no more space outside of one small area. But at this point, I'm at full health, and I don't want to do anything to jeopardize that. So I decide to sell this, get some more cash, and then I'll roll into Hand of the King. And that's going to be another difficult fight. We're sticking with the same build. This is what's been working, and it'll continue to work. At least that's the way I feel about it. So I actually don't really know how to parry that initial swipe that he does on the first phase. So I don't really want to take any chances, so I'm just going to use the Giant Killer, because he doesn't do that in the second and third phases. And that's where the Blood Shield really helped me out, because I could kill the enemies on the screen. So now my work is just going to be parrying everything that he does. And I immediately fail with that. So I'm barely surviving, barely get past him. Just a series of unfortunate hits because I had no way to take out the flags. So I had to ground stomp on them, and then I accidentally end up on the ice platform, and that melts. Just a series of unfortunate events for me. So, it happens, and you have to learn to not be too salty about things like that. But I do have Necromancy, and I'm thinking about taking Dead Inside at this point, but ultimately I decide against it, just because, this is it's a good build. So I don't want to do anything to jeopardize that. Spent some time contemplating on my life choices, but this is the right call to make, staying with that same exact build. And the plan is to use the giant whistles on the librarians. So if I get like maybe 50 or so kills in a row, then I should be able to get back up to full health, or relatively up to full health. And using my head is going to be a big part of that. So we're already at 22%, which is really, really nice. Now we're at 25%. So we're slowly getting back up there. So get out of that situation very luckily. Um, Honestly, sometimes it's dead cells and you have to survive. So now we're at a pretty good percentage of 48%. The Magistrate can be a little uncooperative when it comes to trying to use the head when it's stuck on a protector sometimes, because it just kind of stays there. But then I realized that I have a big fist that's jamming up people's backsides, so I should be okay here. So 25 enemies later, we go from 12% to 54%, and the run is looking a lot better at this point. Looking a lot more like I can actually do this. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but my AC was kind of freaking out in the background. Luckily, it just turned off, so. I'm just trying to figure out what shield I want. That spike shield looks really good, but honestly, I would rather take that punishment. Because against Concierge, he has a couple attacks that will... against Concierge, he has a couple attacks that do that, like, he kind of throws stuff at you. I don't really know how to describe it. And I'll definitely show you guys when he actually goes and does that. So I'm just kind of waiting for the cooldown for my giant whistles, just so I can kill that slammer, because that thing is such a pain. And then use it on the second one, and I am gonna wait all the way up until it gets to 0, so I can use both on the elite slammer because they're a little bulkier. Yep, and just as I had suspected, it lived with basically one hit point left. So I had to essentially use the second one, but thankfully, nothing much doing. Not a problem. The elites have been pretty easy to deal with, at least so far. I'm at 65% health, and coming from 12%, that's a big gain for me. So I'm glad that I stuck with the build that I had instead of going with Dead Inside. So I don't know why I got hit there, and the failed experiment continues to be annoying because of that stupid dodge move. I really thought that I had parried him, but I guess I didn't. But we don't end up losing much HP over it because I do get the regeneration back, the recovery. That recovery might have been a little bit better just because I didn't anticipate getting hit so much on this run. I think essentially that's just what it boils down to. But it is nice because I do have both health potions, or I have two health potions, and I have both keys, and I'm just looking for that last shot. Yeah, level 13 Spike Shield, you're not really going to beat that unless you get something, some kind of crazy affix. That was kind of a satisfying kill. I don't know why the whistle went after the failed experiment instead of the defender, so I'm still trying to figure that one out. And I guess I accidentally killed that failed experiment. He has a long fall down, so I don't have to worry about him at all. But that punishment shield is looking mighty nice right about now. And its crits do 20%, so um, Bloodthirsty Shield did a lot for me, but I think I'm gonna roll with the punishment from here on in. And I'm strictly thinking about Collector at this point, because I've been doing okay in Astrolabe outside of the one hit that I took from the failed experiment. Yeah, the failed experiment isn't really broken by any means. Like, he's actually one of the easier enemies. He's just annoying sometimes because of the dodge. So, failed experiment, I would say, is a pretty big curse killer. And I finally don't have to deal with invisibility anymore. So I can finally grab a good amulet. I had been sorely missing one for a large portion of this run. And it comes with extra jumps. Better late than never, I suppose. Oh, and by the way, we hit 100% health, so thank Necromancy. Because all in all, I have not been getting hit. And even the one time I got hit, I got most of the health back. Parts of this run might have been a little bit easier if I had taken a Thunder Shield instead, but and as I casually see my food disappear into the laser, I genuinely hope that's something that they fix for 1.3 because that's actually kind of annoying. So I did that just so I could look at the health and and the affixes, but the other one gave me pretty good portion more health, so I went with that one instead. But 6636 is pretty good. but that also means that I got 48 instead of 49. So 49 is typically what you get without challenge rips and stuff like that, so I must have missed a scroll somewhere. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not a big deal, because 36 in any stat is still excellent. And I'll tell you, I felt so much better after I could start playing this game without invincibility. Invincibility actually made this run a little bit more painstaking than it needed to be, because especially aggroing enemies is so much easier. And now we have the two birds, and I can't use shields, so I have to rely on them falling down the elevator shaft, getting hit by that by the vertical laser, and using my giant whistle. So let's see how it works. And I have no idea how that one died, but must have died when it hit the laser. That's what I would guess. We're sitting good at 100% health though, and now I can actually substitute Necromancy for Dead Inside, because Necromancy has literally no more use for me. I don't know why I hesitated so much with that Blind Faith, because Giant Whistle otherwise would be on an 18-second cooldown and be kind of annoying to do. So this fight is going to end up taking a little bit longer than I'm going to want it to. But I just kind of have to keep sticking with it. And I have Dead Inside, so attacks won't be doing too much to me at this point. I just have to make sure my Melees just doesn't run deep. But again, I have 16 stacks of Melees, so it shouldn't be too bad. Somehow I get through that without taking a single hit, so I was shocked. So this is where punishment, this is why I wanted to take punishment, is that attack in particular. That and the one where he throws the fireballs at you. The double arbiters, so that's fun. And so, it was difficult because he popped up right in front of me, and arbiters kind of shoot a little weird now instead of more straightforward like it used to be. I kind of miss the old arbiters, honestly. Outside of the fact that they would aggro you from God knows where. That was the only thing I didn't like about them. So now we have to deal with two of those little ball things, but they don't do much damage, so I don't need to worry about them. And we have to go fight an enemy again, and but I got the parry off, so we're good there. So I don't know why I rolled into the spikes. I should have just let myself get hit by the little laser things. So he really likes that down smash today. And actually the little balls that come up from the top help me avoid getting hit. And so I had no idea what I was going to do here because I thought he was going to finish drinking that. Then I realized that I could down smash and I could go grab the stupid thing. But, again, I'm doing such little damage because all I'm doing is parrying him. And typically I can just shred him because I run more offensive builds, but this time I can't because I don't have any damage over time. And he really kind of abused that down smash. It got kind of annoying. And now the damage is starting to finally come for me. And there we go. That's it. Finally, this run is over. Such an exhausting run. I do recommend it just because it helps you get used to enemy attack patterns. But on 5 boss cell, it's definitely one of the more challenging ones. Especially if you're a player that likes to use weapons and likes to go fast like me. Well, somewhat fast. But you can see it on the bottom, an hour and 24 minutes. Like, typically my runs are like about, at this point, they're probably like an hour and 5 minutes. So it's significantly longer. But, we got the win, and I got to work with double giant whistles, and I had never done that before. So it was kind of a fun run to do on its own. Really try to see if this is the build for you. Definitely try it on lower boss cells. At the very worst, you're going to end up learning enemy attack patterns. And with that, have a good night, everyone.